Many times it can happen in the world that a country gets ruined in the blink of an eye. And we have seen this many times in history. No matter how powerful a country is, one day it collapses. And it is the same in today's time also. There are many countries which used to be very powerful, but what is happening with those countries today, why all these developed countries are going towards their downfall. Now whether those countries are from Europe or Asia, it does not matter, if what matters here is the citizens of those countries. When a country goes towards decline, then the citizens of those countries have to bear the brunt of it, and many people have to leave their country and go to other countries. But what do I mean when I say collapse? What is the main reason for the decline of a country? When countries collapse, it is due to economic instability, political failure, social unrest and environmental challenges. When a country lacks resources, or is burdened with excessive debt, it can shake the foundation of the country. And politics is also the main reason for the downfall of the country, because weak governance at the political level, internal problems like corruption or civil war destabilize the country. There are many other problems that countries face, as you all see what is going on right now, the war between Ukraine and Russia or the conflict between Israel and Palestine. So these are all the reasons for the downfall of a country. So let us now know which are those countries which can collapse soon. So our first country is Lebanon. Once known as the Paris of the Middle East, is now a symbol of what happens when a country spirals into crisis. This small but culturally rich nation is facing one of the worst economic collapses in modern history. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your money is worth almost nothing. That's the reality for millions of Lebanese people. The national currency has lost over 90% of its value since 2019, turning life into a constant struggle for survival. Prices for basic necessities like food, fuel, and medicine have skyrocketed. Hospitals can't operate efficiently because there's no electricity or medical supplies. Families are skipping meals, and even the wealthy are feeling the pinch. But the economic crisis is just one part of the story. Lebanon's political system is broken. Years of corruption and mismanagement have left the government paralyzed. The 2020 Beirut port explosion was a turning point. It destroyed entire neighborhoods, killed hundreds, and injured thousands. Even worse, it exposed the incompetence of Lebanon's leaders, as the explosion was caused by dangerous chemicals that had been neglected for years. People have taken to the streets repeatedly, demanding change. But their calls for accountability have mostly gone unanswered. Many young people are leaving the country, unable to see a future at home. The heartache is that Lebanon is a country with a rich history, vibrant culture, and resilient people, but its current trajectory is deeply concerning. So let's move on to our next country, which is Venezuela. Venezuela's fall from grace is one of the most dramatic in modern history. Just a few decades ago, it was one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America, sitting on some of the largest oil reserves in the world. But today, it's a country in survival mode. The economy has been destroyed by hyperinflation, with prices doubling every few weeks. For the average Venezuelan, this means that money in their pocket is practically worthless. Imagine going to the store to buy bread, only to find that the price has doubled since yesterday. It's an impossible situation, but the economic collapse isn't just about numbers. It has led to widespread hunger and a healthcare system that's barely functional. Hospitals lack basic supplies like antibiotics, and power outages are common. The government blames international sanctions, but critics point to years of corruption and mismanagement. Meanwhile, millions of Venezuelans have fled the country in search of better lives. Entire families are walking for days, crossing borders into Colombia, Brazil, or further afield. Those who remain live under a government that tolerates little dissent. Protests are met with brutal crackdowns, leaving people fearful but desperate for change. Events in Venezuela show us what happens when corruption, mismanagement and political polarization go unchecked. There are many people in this country who are working for the good future of the country, and I only hope that the condition of this country should be good. So let's move on to our third country, which is North Korea. For decades, the North Korean government has prioritized its military and nuclear programs over the well-being of its citizens. The result, an economy that's barely functioning in a population that struggles with chronic food shortages. Many North Koreans rely on government rations to survive, but these rations are often inconsistent and insufficient. Starvation is not uncommon, especially in rural areas. International sanctions, meant to pressure the government into abandoning its nuclear ambitions, have only made things worse. North Korea is cut off from much of the global economy, and trade is minimal. The COVID-19 pandemic further isolated the country, shutting down its borders completely and leaving it more vulnerable than ever. Life in North Korea is grim for most people. Basic freedoms are non-existent, and any form of dissent is met with harsh punishment. But even the government's tight control has limits. If economic conditions continue to worsen or dissent grows quietly within the population, the regime could face serious instability. For now, the Kim dynasty maintains a tight grip on power. But as history has shown, even the most repressive regimes can crumble under the weight of internal and external pressures. So our next country is Somalia. Somalia has been synonymous with instability for decades. Located in the Horn of Africa, the country has faced an endless cycle of conflict, poverty, and natural disasters. Somalia's government struggles to maintain control, with large parts of the country effectively ruled by militias or extremist groups like Al-Shabaab. These groups not only terrorize the population but also undermine any efforts at rebuilding a stable state. Even in the capital city of Mogadishu, the government's authority is limited. Adding to the challenges is Somalia's vulnerability to climate change. Repeated droughts have left millions of people without food or water. Agriculture, which is the backbone of the country's economy, is collapsing, pushing more people into hunger. Many Somalis are forced to leave their homes, creating one of the largest refugee crises in the world. Efforts to stabilize Somalia have been ongoing for years, with international organizations and neighboring countries trying to help. But progress is slow, and the constant threat of violence makes development almost impossible. For many Somalis, the dream of peace feels as distant as ever. So let's move on to our last country, which is Myanmar. Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, has faced a downward spiral since a military coup in 2021 overthrew its democratically elected government. The coup sparked massive protests across the country, which were met with brutal crackdowns by the military. Thousands of people have been killed or arrested, and the country has plunged into chaos. The economy has taken a massive hit. Foreign investments have dried up, and sanctions have further isolated Myanmar from the international community. Inflation is rising, and many people are struggling to make ends meet. Rural areas, in particular, have been devastated, with farmers unable to sell their crops or access basic resources. The conflict has also fueled a growing civil war. Ethnic minority groups, who have long fought for autonomy, are now clashing with the military on multiple fronts. This has led to widespread displacement, with hundreds of thousands of people forced to flee their homes. For Myanmar, the future looks bleak. The military shows no signs of relinquishing power, and the international community seems unable to bring about meaningful change. For the people of Myanmar, hope is in short supply, but their resilience in the face of such hardship is a testament to their strength. So these were those 5 countries which can collapse anytime in the future. But if these countries want to avoid their collapse, then they need to work on their economy, politics and social level. There are many countries which were very close to their collapse earlier, but today those countries have progressed a lot. So this was today's video. If you liked this video, then please subscribe the channel. I will continue to bring similar videos in future also. See you in the next video.